Welcome to tonight's story. Before we begin, I want you to get comfortable. Maybe pour yourself a glass of wine, settle into your favorite spot, and prepare for a story about two people who never expected that one Christmas would change absolutely everything. If you're enjoying this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. Now let's begin. This is Virgin Bride for the Billionaire's Christmas. Emma Clarke's hands were shaking as she stared at the stack of medical bills spread across her tiny kitchen table. $500,000. The number might as well have been 5 million. Outside her studio apartment window, Manhattan sparkled with Christmas lights, but inside, everything felt cold and dark. Her father had maybe 6 months left unless they could get him into the clinical trial at Memorial Sloan Kettering. 6 months. The experimental treatment was his only shot, and insurance had denied the claim. Of course they had. She was 24 years old, working 2 jobs, and she couldn't even afford to save her own father's life. Emma pressed her palms against her eyes, refusing to cry. Crying wouldn't pay the bills. Crying wouldn't cure cancer. She'd already picked up every extra shift she could at the bookstore and the cafe. She'd sold everything of value she owned, which wasn't much. Her mother's wedding ring had bought them 3 months. What was left to sell? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was another debt collector. But something made her pick up. Miss Clarke. The voice was crisp, professional, male. My name is Richard Pemberton. I'm a private attorney representing a client who may have a solution to your financial difficulties. Emma's stomach dropped. I'm not interested in loans I can't pay back. This isn't a loan. It's a business proposition. My client is willing to pay all of your father's medical expenses, plus $500,000 cash, in exchange for a service only you can provide. Every alarm bell in Emma's head started ringing. She'd lived in New York long enough to know that when something sounded too good to be true, it absolutely was. What kind of service? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Are you available tomorrow at 2? I can send a car. I work until 3. I'll make it worth your while to leave early. Shall we say Oriole? It's on West 42nd. Emma knew the restaurant. She'd walked past it 100 times, never dreaming she'd actually eat there. How will I know you? Corner table. I'll be the man in the navy suit with the silver tie. And Miss Clarke? This is a legitimate offer. I represent Damian Cross. The line went dead. Emma sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Damian Cross. Everyone knew that name. The self-made billionaire who'd built Cross Industries from nothing by the time he was 30. He was in the papers constantly, usually photographed at charity galas with different beautiful women on his arm. He was also reportedly ruthless, cold, and completely untouchable. What could a man like that possibly want from her? The next afternoon, Emma stood outside Oriole in her only decent dress. A simple black number she'd bought at Target 3 years ago for a funeral. Through the windows she could see white tablecloths, crystal glasses, people who belonged in places like this. She didn't. But her father needed her, so she pushed open the door. Richard Pemberton was exactly where he said he'd be. Mid-50s, sharp-eyed, expensive suit. He stood when she approached. Miss Clarke. Thank you for coming. Please sit. A waiter appeared instantly with water and menus. Emma's hands were sweating. I don't understand what this is about. My client needs a wife. Emma blinked. Excuse me. Temporarily. His grandmother is dying. She has one final wish, to see him married and settled before she passes. Mrs. Catherine Cross is quite traditional, you understand. She's 87 years old, and she won't last past New Year's. My client wants to give her this gift, but he has no intention of entering into a real marriage. So he wants to lie to a dying woman? Richard smiled slightly. He wants to give her peace. There's a difference. The arrangement would last approximately 2 weeks. December 20th through January 2nd. You would attend family events, act as his devoted wife, and then quietly annul the marriage after his grandmother passes. In exchange, all your father's medical expenses will be covered, plus $500,000 deposited into your account. Emma's head was spinning. Why me? He could hire any actress, any model. He needs someone real. Someone without connections to his world. Someone who won't try to leverage the situation later. You're drowning in debt, Miss Clarke. You have no social media presence, no scandalous past, and most importantly, you need the money desperately enough to say yes, but you're not the type to blackmail him later. Our background check was very thorough. You investigated me? Of course. You're clean, hardworking, devoted daughter. Never even had a serious boyfriend. He slid a leather folder across the table. The contract. Read it carefully. You'll see that all your concerns are addressed. Separate bedrooms. No physical relationship required. Complete discretion. If you breach the contract, you forfeit the money. If he breaches it, you receive double. Emma opened the folder with trembling hands. The legal language was dense, but certain phrases jumped out. The wife agrees to act in public as a loving spouse. The husband agrees to maintain separate sleeping quarters. Neither party shall disclose the nature of this arrangement. $500,000. All medical expenses related to Robert Clarke's treatment. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, Mr. Cross will pursue other options. Richard handed her a business card. My client would like to meet you before you decide. Tonight if possible. I can have a car pick you up at 7. Tonight. Emma's voice cracked. He's a busy man, Miss Clarke. And your father's next round of treatment is scheduled for when? Next week. Richard's expression was kind but firm. Time is something neither of you have much of. That evening, Emma told her father she was meeting a friend. She couldn't tell him the truth, not yet. Not when she didn't even know if she was going to do this insane thing. The black Mercedes that picked her up was nicer than any car she'd ever been in. The driver didn't speak, just smoothly navigated through Manhattan traffic, until they pulled up to a building in Tribeca that was all glass and steel and money. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Emma stepped out of the private elevator into a space that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, Christmas lights twinkling like stars. Everything was sleek, modern, expensive. And standing by the windows, backlit by the Manhattan skyline, was Damian Cross. She'd seen his pictures, but they didn't capture the reality of him. Tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair and darker eyes. He wore a black sweater and dark jeans, somehow making casual look like a power move. He was beautiful in the way that dangerous things are beautiful, all sharp edges and controlled power. And when he turned to look at her, Emma felt like the air had been sucked from the room. Miss Clarke. His voice was deep, measured, the kind of voice that made boardrooms fall silent. Thank you for coming. I haven't agreed to anything. I know. Would you like something to drink? Wine? Water? Water's fine. He poured from a crystal pitcher, handed her the glass. Their fingers brushed and Emma felt electricity shoot up her arm. His eyes flickered just for a second, and she wondered if he felt it too. Then his expression went neutral again, that mask of control sliding back into place. Pemberton explained the arrangement. He said you need a fake wife for Christmas. I need someone to help me give my grandmother peace. She raised me after my parents died. This is the only thing she's ever asked of me. There was something in his voice, just a hairline crack in that perfect control. Emma studied him. You could actually fall in love, you know. Get married for real. His laugh was cold, brittle. No, I couldn't. Every woman I've ever dated wanted one thing, access to my bank account. I learned that lesson early and well. Not every woman is like that. Aren't they? He moved closer, and Emma had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. He smelled like expensive cologne and something else, something clean and masculine that made her stomach flip. You're here, aren't you? Because I'm offering you money. I'm here because my father is dying and I can't save him on my own. Emma set down the glass harder than necessary. There's a difference between accepting help when you're desperate and being a gold digger. Something shifted in his expression. Interest, maybe. Respect. Fair point. Sit down. Let's talk terms. They sat on opposite ends of a leather sofa that probably cost more than Emma made in a year. Damian was all business now, ticking off points like he was negotiating a merger. 2 weeks. December 20th through January 2nd. We'll have a small private ceremony, just enough to make it legal. You'll move in here, separate bedroom, separate bathroom, your privacy completely respected. We'll attend 4 family events: the announcement party, Christmas Eve dinner, Christmas Day brunch, and New Year's Eve. In public, we're madly in love. In private, we're business associates. After my grandmother passes, which her doctors say will be soon, we wait a respectful interval and quietly file for annulment. You walk away with the money and your father gets his treatment. Clean, simple, mutually beneficial. What if your grandmother doesn't die by January 2nd? Then we extend the arrangement. The money is yours regardless of timeline. Emma twisted her hands in her lap. This feels wrong. Lying to someone who's dying. My grandmother wants to see me happy. For 2 weeks I'll act happy. That's not a lie that hurts anyone. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and for a moment he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man carrying a heavy weight. Look, I understand your hesitation, but think practically. Your father needs treatment now. Not next month after you pick up a 3rd job. Not after you've exhausted every other option. Now, I'm offering you a solution. 2 weeks of your life in exchange for saving his. When he put it like that, what choice did she have? Emma closed her eyes, thought of her father's pale face in that hospital bed, the way he tried to smile even though she could see the pain in his eyes, and made her decision. Okay, I'll do it. Good. Damian pulled out his phone. Pemberton will have the contracts ready tomorrow morning. Sign them, and I'll wire half the money immediately as a good faith deposit. The rest when the annulment is finalized. That's it? No other conditions. Just one. His dark eyes locked on hers and Emma felt pinned in place. Don't fall in love with me, Emma. This is a business arrangement. Nothing more. Nothing less. The way he said it, so cold and certain, like he was warning her away from touching fire, made Emma's spine stiffen. Trust me, that won't be a problem. Good. Then we have a deal. He stood, extended his hand. Emma shook it, and that electric shock ran through her again, stronger this time. She pulled away quickly, unsettled. I should go. I have work in the morning. Actually, you don't. You're quitting both jobs. As of now, you're my fiancé. We have a lot to prepare. He walked her to the elevator, pressed the button. My assistant will pick you up at 9 tomorrow. You'll need an entire new wardrobe. Everything designer. You're about to become a Cross. You need to look the part. The elevator doors opened and Emma stepped inside, her head spinning. As the doors started to close, Damian spoke one more time. Emma? Thank you. This means more than you know. The doors closed before she could respond, and Emma rode down 70 floors feeling like she just made a deal with the devil. Or maybe, just maybe, made the only choice that would save her father's life. She wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The next morning, Emma woke up to a text from an unknown number. Black SUV outside your building. 9 a.m. sharp. His assistant was a woman named Victoria, impossibly chic in Chanel, who looked Emma up and down with thinly veiled disappointment. We have a lot of work to do. The next 6 hours were a blur. Bergdorf Goodman, Saks, Tiffany's. Victoria handed Emma dress after dress, outfit after outfit, each one costing more than Emma's monthly rent. Mr. Cross wants you to have options. Cocktail dresses, evening gowns, casual wear, shoes, bags, jewelry, lingerie. Lingerie. Emma's face flamed red. You're newlyweds. People will expect you to look like a woman who's being thoroughly satisfied. Victoria's smile was sharp as glass. Don't worry. Separate bedrooms, I know. But appearances matter in this world. By the time they finished shopping, Emma had 17 shopping bags and a black credit card with her name embossed in silver. Well, her new name. Emma Cross. It looked fake. Felt fake, like a costume she was trying on. Everything about this felt fake. One more stop, Victoria said, checking her phone. Hair and makeup. At the salon, they cut 6 inches off Emma's long hair. Added subtle highlights that caught the light. Shaped her eyebrows into perfect arches. The makeup artist gave her a masterclass in looking expensive, natural but polished. When Emma looked in the mirror 2 hours later, she barely recognized herself. She looked like she belonged in Damian's world, like she'd been born to wear $1,000 dresses and diamond earrings. Much better, Victoria said approvingly. Mr. Cross will be pleased. I don't care if he's pleased. Yes, you do. That's what he's paying you for. Victoria's voice was cool as ice. A word of advice, Emma. Don't mistake this arrangement for something it's not. Mr. Cross has been burned before by women who thought they could change him. He doesn't do relationships. He doesn't do feelings. This is business, pure and simple. The moment you forget that is the moment you get hurt. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to say she had no illusions about what this was, but Victoria was already walking away, heels clicking on marble floors. That evening Emma moved into the penthouse. Damian wasn't home, probably still at his office running his empire. A housekeeper named Maria showed her to her room, which was bigger than Emma's entire apartment had been. A king bed with white linens that looked like clouds, a private bathroom with a soaking tub and rain shower, a walk-in closet that Victoria had already filled with Emma's new clothes, all the tags removed, everything hanging perfectly. "You need anything, Mija, you call me," Maria said in Spanish-accented English. Her face was warm, kind, the first genuine kindness Emma had experienced all day. "I've worked for Mr. Cross for 5 years. He's a good man, even if he doesn't show it often. We're not really married," Emma blurted out, needing someone to know the truth. "I mean, we will be legally, but it's just temporary. For his grandmother." Maria's dark eyes were knowing, sad. "I know. He told me everything. But Mija, let me tell you something. I've seen many women try to catch Mr. Cross. All of them beautiful, all of them rich, all of them failing. You know why?" Emma shook her head. "Because they wanted his money, his status, his power. They didn't see him, the real him. I think you see him. That's dangerous for you both." She patted Emma's cheek gently. "Be careful with your heart, Nina. Be very careful." Before Emma could respond, she heard the elevator chime. Damian was home. Maria disappeared like smoke, and Emma stood awkwardly in her doorway as Damian walked past, loosening his tie, looking exhausted. He stopped when he saw her standing there. "Your hair. Your assistant had them cut it." He moved closer, and Emma's heart started hammering against her ribs. He reached out slowly, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle, almost tender, completely at odds with his cold businessman demeanor. His fingers lingered against her cheek for just a moment. "It suits you. You look beautiful." Then he stepped back abruptly, walls slamming back into place so fast Emma almost heard them click. "We're having dinner with my grandmother tomorrow night. The announcement. Are you ready? I signed the contract this morning. Your lawyer said the money's already in my account." "It is. Half now, half later. Your father's treatment starts next week. Pemberton handled all the arrangements with the hospital." Emma's eyes stung with sudden tears. Despite everything, despite the weirdness of this situation, her father was going to live. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You're providing a service. This is a transaction, nothing more." But his voice was softer than his words, and his eyes lingered on her face. "Get some rest. Tomorrow will be intense." He walked away, and Emma heard his bedroom door close down the hall. She stood alone in the hallway of this massive, empty penthouse and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. The next evening, Emma wore a navy blue dress that cost $4,000 and felt like liquid silk against her skin. Damian appeared in a charcoal suit that probably cost 10 times that, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable flickering in his dark eyes. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Neither am I." He offered his arm and Emma slipped her hand through it, feeling the solid strength of him. "Let's go lie convincingly to my dying grandmother." The drive to Catherine Cross's estate was silent except for the smooth hum of the engine. The house was in Connecticut, a sprawling mansion that looked like it belonged in a historical register. It was decorated within an inch of its life for Christmas. Lights everywhere, wreaths on every door, garland draped over every surface. It should have been beautiful, magical, but it felt cold to Emma. Like a museum, not a home. Catherine Cross was in the library, wrapped in blankets despite the roaring fire. She was tiny, bird-like, her skin paper-thin, but her eyes were sharp as knives when they fixed on Emma the moment she walked in. "So, this is her." Damian's hand pressed against Emma's lower back, warm and steadying. "Grandmother, this is Emma Clarke. Emma, my grandmother, Catherine Cross. Come here, child. Let me look at you properly." Emma crossed to the old woman, who reached up with trembling hands and took Emma's hand in both of hers. Her skin was ice-cold, fragile as tissue paper. Pretty. But that's not why he chose you, is it? Emma's heart stopped. Did she know? Could she tell? Catherine smiled. A knowing smile that made Emma's stomach drop. Sit down, both of you. Tell me how you met. Damian sat beside Emma on the sofa, close enough that their thighs touched, generating heat. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together, and Emma tried not to react to the warmth of his palm against hers. We met at a bookstore. Emma was working there. I came in looking for a gift, and she recommended a book. We started talking, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. What book? Catherine asked, those sharp eyes missing nothing. Emma's mind raced. What book would a man like Damian Cross read? East of Eden, she said quickly. Steinbeck. He said he'd never read it, and I told him he was missing out on one of the greatest American novels ever written. And you were right, Damian said, looking at her with something that almost looked like affection. It's become one of my favorites. I've read it 3 times now. The lie slid so smoothly off his tongue that Emma almost believed it herself. His thumb was tracing small circles on her palm, a gesture that looked affectionate but felt calculated, rehearsed. How romantic, Catherine said. But there was something in her tone that Emma couldn't quite read. And when did you decide to get married? Last week, Damian said without hesitation. I know it's fast, probably seems crazy, but when you know, you know. And I know Emma is the woman I want to spend my life with. He lifted Emma's hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles softly. The gesture was gentle, reverent, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, it felt real. Catherine watched them with those knife-sharp eyes. I've prayed for this day for 20 years. Ever since you closed yourself off after your parents died. I thought I'd never see you let someone in, never see you trust anyone again. Her voice cracked with emotion. You've made an old woman very happy, Damian. Happier than you know. Guilt crashed over Emma like a tidal wave. This woman was dying, counting down her last days, and they were lying straight to her face. Emma squeezed Damian's hand without thinking, and he squeezed back hard. We're happy too, grandmother. Happier than I ever thought possible. The wedding? When? Tomorrow, actually. Small ceremony, just immediate family at City Hall. We didn't want to wait, didn't want a big production. Tomorrow. Catherine tried to sit up straighter, energy flooding back into her frail body. Robert, call my doctor right now. Make sure I'm well enough to travel. Grandmother, you don't have to come if you're not feeling. I will be at my only grandson's wedding. Her tone left absolutely no room for argument. This is the greatest gift you could give me, Damian. The only gift I've wanted for years. Thank you, my boy. Thank you. After dinner, which Emma barely tasted through her anxiety, Damian drove them back to the city in heavy silence. Emma stared out the window, watching Connecticut give way to New York, lights blurring past. Finally, she couldn't take the silence anymore. She really loves you. I know. And we're lying to her. To a dying woman who just wants to see you happy. We're giving her what she wants. Peace in her final days. There's a difference. Is there? Emma turned to look at him. In the dim light from the dashboard, his profile was all sharp angles and shadows. She's going to die thinking you found love. And then you're going to go back to being alone in that empty penthouse. That's my choice. Why? What happened to make you like this? So closed off. His jaw tightened, muscle jumping. None of your business. I'm your wife. Or I will be tomorrow. Doesn't that make it my business? You're not my wife. You're an employee playing a role. His voice was ice cold. Don't forget that. They didn't speak again until they reached the penthouse. Emma went straight to her room, changed into pajamas and tried to sleep. But her mind kept replaying the evening on an endless loop. Catherine's joy. Damian's cold walls. The feel of his hand in hers, warm and solid. The way he'd looked at her when he said she was beautiful. She was still awake at midnight when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Then a soft knock on her door. Emma? You awake? She opened the door to find Damian standing there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. His hair was messy like he'd been running his hands through it, his feet bare. What's wrong? I wanted to apologize for what I said in the car. You didn't deserve that harsh response. Emma leaned against the doorframe, suddenly exhausted. Why do you do that? Push people away the second they get close. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the floor. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. When I was 12, my parents died in a car accident. Black ice on the highway. Another driver lost control. Gone in an instant, no warning, no goodbye. My grandmother took me in, but she was cold, proper, old school. She didn't know how to handle a grieving child, so she raised me to be like her. Controlled. Unemotional. Untouchable. By the time I was 16, I'd learned not to feel anything at all. That's not true. You feel things. I saw your face when your grandmother was talking. You love her. That's different. She's dying. I can allow myself to feel that because it's temporary. And what about when she's gone? Who will you allow yourself to feel for then? He looked up at her, really looked at her, and for a moment Emma saw something raw and broken in his eyes. Then he stepped back, shuddering it away. Get some rest. Big day tomorrow. We're getting married. Fake married. Right. Fake married. But the way he said it sounded almost sad, almost like he wished it could be different. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Are you Team Emma or Team Damian? Drop your thoughts below. The wedding was at City Hall the next afternoon. Just paperwork, really. Nothing romantic about it. Emma wore a simple white dress that Victoria had picked out. Elegant but understated. Damian wore a dark suit that made him look like he was attending a business meeting. Not his own wedding. Maria was their witness, crying happy tears even though she knew the truth, dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Catherine sat in her wheelchair, too weak to stand but smiling so brightly it broke Emma's heart. The official pronounced them husband and wife in a bored monotone, like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Damian kissed Emma on the cheek, a chaste peck that barely counted as contact. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Cross. Mrs. Cross. Emma looked down at the diamond ring on her finger, a massive stone that probably cost more than her father's entire treatment. Felt heavy, real, even though none of this was real at all. That afternoon, they held a small reception at the penthouse for immediate family. Catherine was there in her wheelchair, still smiling despite her obvious exhaustion. Damian's uncle Robert and his wife Jennifer. Their twin daughters Amanda and Ashley, who looked at Emma like she was something they'd scraped off their expensive shoes. A few business associates who apparently counted as family in Damian's world. Everyone drinking champagne, making toasts about love and happiness, while Emma stood next to her new husband and played the part of the blushing bride. You're doing great, Damian murmured during a lull in conversation. His arm was around her waist, his body warm and solid against hers, and Emma found herself leaning into him without thinking. I feel like a fraud. That's because you are. But there was a hint of amusement in his voice, the first real emotion she'd heard from him all day. Just a few more hours and everyone goes home. And then what? Then we go back to our separate corners of this penthouse and pretend this never happened. Before Emma could respond, Catherine called them over with a trembling hand. Dance for me. I want to see my grandson dance with his bride. There was no music playing, but Damian pulled Emma into his arms anyway without hesitation. One of the business associates fumbled with his phone, started playing something soft and classical. And there, in the middle of the penthouse living room with everyone watching, Emma and Damian swayed together. You're stepping on my feet, Emma whispered. You're not exactly Ginger Rogers yourself. She laughed, couldn't help it, and felt his chest rumble with an answering chuckle. This close, she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and clean that made her want to bury her face in his neck. Feel the strength in his arms as he held her. When she looked up, his dark eyes were on her face, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. This is nice, he said quietly so only she could hear. Pretending. Is it pretending? Right now, in this moment. His expression shuddered immediately, walls slamming back up. It has to be. But his arms tightened around her slightly, pulling her closer, and Emma wondered if he was lying to her or to himself. The next few days fell into a strange rhythm. During the day they were Damian and Emma, polite strangers sharing a luxurious space. He worked in his home office taking calls and video conferences. She read books from his extensive library or explored the city with Maria as her guide, learning to navigate this world of wealth and privilege. They were cordial, distant, careful. But in the evenings, when they attended family events, they transformed into something else entirely. He'd put his arm around her, call her darling and sweetheart, look at her like she hung the moon and stars. And Emma found herself leaning into him more than she should. Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear, the city blanketed in fresh snow. They drove to Catherine's estate for dinner, and the place was full of family. Robert and Jennifer holding court, the twins whispering to each other and shooting Emma dirty looks, an aunt from California who talked too loud about her investments, various business associates who counted as family in the Cross world. Everyone dressed in formal wear, drinking expensive wine, talking about things Emma didn't understand. Stock portfolios, real estate investments, who was buying what company and for how much. Emma sat next to Damian at dinner, feeling completely out of her depth, like she was drowning in a sea of wealth and privilege. Ashley, or maybe it was Amanda, kept asking pointed questions designed to make Emma squirm. So Emma, what exactly did you do before you married Damian? I worked in a bookstore. How quaint and charming. And your family? What do they do? My father's retired. It wasn't technically a lie. He'd been laid off 2 years ago when his company downsized, too sick to work now. But Emma wasn't about to explain her entire life story to these people. Retired from what exactly? Amanda, that's enough, Damian said quietly. But there was steel in his voice, a warning that made Amanda's smile falter. I'm just getting to know our new cousin. We know absolutely nothing about her. She appeared out of nowhere like magic and suddenly she's part of this family. Part of the Cross legacy. She's part of this family because she's my wife. That's all you need to know. The table went silent, everyone staring. Catherine smiled from the head of the table, looking pleased. I like her. She's got fire in her. Unlike those other vapid women you used to date, Damian. Grandmother. It's true and you know it. That model you brought to Easter dinner? Beautiful but empty. The lawyer from that summer party? Calculating as a computer. But Emma, she's real. I can see it in her eyes. She sees you, really sees you. Emma wanted to disappear under the table. Wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. If Catherine only knew how fake this all was, how it was just a business transaction. But then Damian took her hand under the table, squeezed gently, and Emma squeezed back. A moment of real connection in all this performance. After dinner, Catherine insisted they all attend midnight service at the family church. It was beautiful, all candlelight and hymns, the kind of Christmas Eve that Emma had always dreamed about but never experienced. Her own Christmases had been small, quiet affairs with just her and her dad, eating takeout Chinese food and watching old movies. This was straight out of a storybook. Damian sat beside her in the pew, their shoulders touching, generating warmth. When they stood to sing Silent Night, he had a good voice, deep and sure and surprisingly beautiful. Emma found herself watching him instead of reading the hymnal. In the candlelight he looked different. Softer. Almost at peace with himself. Their eyes met across the flickering candles, and something passed between them. Something that made Emma's heart skip and her breath catch in her throat. After the service on the long drive back to the city, Damian was quiet. Emma watched the lights flash past the window, Christmas decorations on every house, families celebrating together. That was beautiful. You sound surprised. I am. I didn't think people like you did things like midnight service and caroling. People like me? Billionaires. I thought you'd all be too busy counting your money to care about Christmas traditions. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face, made him look younger and less burdened. You really have no filter, do you? Should I? You're paying me to be your wife, not to kiss your rear end and tell you what you want to hear. True enough. He glanced at her, something warm in his expression. For what it's worth, I'm glad it's you. Doing this with me. Why? Because you're real. Amanda was right about that, even if she meant it as an insult. You're not pretending to be something you're not. You're just you. Except a wife in love. Right. Except that. Back at the penthouse they said goodnight in the hallway like they always did. A routine they'd fallen into. But this time, Damian hesitated, his hand on his doorknob. Emma? Merry Christmas. It's not midnight yet. Close enough. He reached out, tucked her hair behind her ear again. That gesture that made her breath catch every single time. Thank you. For tonight. For all of this. For making my grandmother happy. You're paying me handsomely. Remember. I know. But still. Thank you. His hand lingered against her cheek, warm and gentle, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. Then he pulled back abruptly, walls slamming down. Good night. Emma went to her room and lay awake for hours, her cheeks still tingling where he'd touched her. This was supposed to be fake, just business. So why did it feel so devastatingly real? Christmas morning came bright and cold, sunlight streaming through the windows. Emma woke to find a gift box on her doorstep. Inside was a cashmere robe in the softest cream color she'd ever felt, and a note in Damian's bold handwriting. For Christmas morning. Brunch at grandmother's at 11. Don't be late. Emma put on the robe, feeling like she was wrapped in a cloud of luxury. When she emerged from her room, Damian was in the kitchen making coffee, wearing jeans and a sweater. He looked so normal, so human, so unlike the cold billionaire in expensive suits, that Emma's heart did something stupid and painful in her chest. Merry Christmas, she said softly. Merry Christmas. Coffee. Please. Strong and black. They sat at the breakfast bar, drinking coffee in comfortable silence, and for a while they didn't talk. It was easy, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. I got you something, Emma said finally. She'd bought it weeks ago with her own money, before all this started, but she wanted him to have it. She retrieved the wrapped package from her room where she'd hidden it. Damian looked genuinely surprised, almost shocked. You didn't have to do that. It's not part of the contract. I know. Just open it. Inside was a first edition of East of Eden, the pages yellowed with age. Emma had found it at a used bookstore in Brooklyn, spent more than she could really afford at the time. Since you said it was your favorite now, I thought you should have a proper copy. Damian stared at the book like it was made of gold, his fingers tracing the cover reverently. Emma, this must have cost a fortune. This is a genuine first edition. It doesn't matter what it cost. I wanted you to have it. He looked up at her, and there was something in his eyes that Emma couldn't read, something raw and vulnerable. No one's ever given me a gift like this before. What a book. No. Something thoughtful. Something that wasn't just expensive for the sake of being expensive. Something that showed you were actually paying attention to me. He set the book down carefully like it was precious and fragile. Thank you. Really. You're welcome. He reached into his pocket, suddenly looking almost nervous. I got you something too. I mean, I know we said no personal gifts, but I wanted you to have this. He handed her a small velvet box. Inside were diamond earrings, delicate and beautiful, catching the morning light like captured stars. Damian, these are too much. They're gorgeous, but I can't. They were my mother's. She would have wanted you to have them, would have wanted them to be worn and appreciated. Emma's eyes stung with sudden tears. I can't accept these. Your mother is gone. Has been gone for 23 years. And these have been sitting in a safe all that time, never worn, never seen. They should be worn by someone who'll appreciate them. They should bring joy. He reached out, brushed his thumb across her cheek, catching a tear. Wear them today. For me. Please. Okay. Emma whispered, her voice breaking. His hand lingered on her face, and for a heartbeat Emma thought he might kiss her. Really kiss her. Not the chase pecks they'd exchanged for show, but something real and raw. But then his phone buzzed loudly, shattering the moment like glass. That's Pemberton reminding us about brunch. We should get ready. Grandmother's expecting us. The spell was broken, but something had shifted between them, something neither of them could name. Christmas Day passed in a blur of family and food and forced cheer. But all Emma could think about was that moment in the kitchen. The way he'd looked at her, the way her heart had hammered, the way it had felt devastatingly, dangerously real. That night, after they returned to the penthouse exhausted, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the day, analyzing every moment. Catherine's joy, Damian's unexpected gentleness, the diamond earrings that belonged to his dead mother, given to her like they meant something. Around 2 in the morning, she gave up on sleep entirely and went to the kitchen for water. Damian was already there, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city stretched below like a blanket of stars. He turned when he heard her footsteps. Can't sleep either? Too much rich food. Too much champagne. Too much everything. Yeah. He turned back to the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. 6 more days and this is all over. Back to normal life. 6 more days and Emma would go back to her tiny apartment. Damian would file for annulment like they'd planned. They'd never see each other again. The thought made her chest physically ache. What will you do? Emma asked quietly. After. Go back to work. Build my empire. Acquire more companies. The usual routine. Alone in this massive penthouse? I've always been alone. I'm used to it by now. Do you ever get lonely? Up here in your tower like some modern fairy tale. Every single day of my life. The honesty in his voice stunned her into silence. Emma moved to stand beside him at the window. The city stretched out below them endlessly, a million lights, a million stories, a million lives being lived. Then why stay alone? Because it's safer. Because people leave. People die. People lie and betray you. Being alone means never being hurt, never being disappointed. It also means never being truly happy. Who says I want to be happy? But his voice cracked on the last word, betraying him. Emma turned to face him fully. Everyone wants to be happy, Damian. Even you underneath all those walls you've built. He looked down at her, and in the dim light from the city far below, his eyes were dark and endless and full of something that looked like longing. What if I don't know how? What if I've forgotten? Then I guess someone needs to teach you all over again. Is that someone you? Emma's heart was pounding so hard she was absolutely sure he could hear it echoing in the quiet. Maybe. For the next 6 days anyway. He reached out, cupped her face in both hands, his palms warm against her skin. Emma. We can't. This is just business, just an arrangement. Fake. I know. You keep saying that like it's some kind of shield. She stepped closer. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. But it doesn't feel fake to me anymore. Does it feel fake to you? No. He whispered, the word torn from somewhere deep inside him. God help me, no. And then he was kissing her desperately, like a drowning man gasping for air. Really kissing her. Not the careful calculated kisses for his family but deep and desperate and achingly real. Emma melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, and kissed him back with everything she had. Everything she'd been holding back. He tasted like coffee and something darker, something that was purely Damian. His hand slid into her hair, tilted her head back, and the kiss went deeper still, consuming them both. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damian pressed his forehead to hers. This is a terrible mistake. Probably the worst. This complicates absolutely everything we agreed to. I know. I don't care anymore. We have a contract. Rules. Boundaries. Then let's break them. Let's break all of them. He kissed her again, slower this time but no less intense, no less consuming. Then he scooped her up easily, carried her to his bedroom, kicked the door shut behind them with his foot. Emma had a glimpse of dark walls, expensive furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, and then Damian was laying her on his bed, following her down, his body covering hers completely. Are you absolutely sure? He asked, his voice rough and raw. Because once we cross this line, once we do this, everything changes. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my entire life. What happened next was tender and passionate, and completely overwhelming in the best possible way. Damian was gentle with her, patient, taking his time despite the obvious desire burning in his eyes. He kissed every inch of her skin like he was memorizing her, worshipping her. And when he finally made love to her, Emma felt something crack wide open in her chest, something that had been locked away and protected. This wasn't fake. This wasn't business. This was real and terrifying and absolutely perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together in his massive bed, Damian's fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. I haven't done this in a very long time, he said quietly into the darkness. You seem pretty skilled to me. No, I mean letting anyone close like this. Letting my guard down completely. Being vulnerable. Emma turned to look at him. In the darkness, his face was softer, more open, the walls finally down. Why now? Why me? I honestly don't know. There's something about you that just cuts through all my defenses like they're made of paper. You see through all my walls like they're not even there. It's absolutely terrifying. I'm terrified too, Emma admitted, her voice small. This wasn't supposed to happen. We had rules. No, it wasn't supposed to happen at all. He pulled her closer, tucked her against his chest. But I'm not sorry it did. Not even a little bit. Me neither. They fell asleep wrapped around each other like that. And for the first time in more years than he could count, Damian slept through the entire night without nightmares. Thank you so much for listening to Virgin Bride for the Billionaire's Christmas. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more romance stories just like this one. I post new stories every single week, so make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Are you in New York like Emma and Damian? Somewhere warm trying to escape the cold? Or maybe somewhere where it's summer right now? I read every single comment, and I genuinely love connecting with listeners from all around the world. Also, let me know what kind of story you'd like to hear next. More billionaire romance? Enemies to lovers? Second chance romance? Mafia romance? Your feedback directly helps me create content you'll love. Thank you again for spending time with me tonight. Until next time, sweet dreams and happy endings to you all.